So for those of you who thought Pro Audio was a fad, well, think again. Pro Audio is on fire. Everybody loves it. It brings new customers to the business, and brands such as Audiocontrol have recognized the demand, and they are introducing and getting into the Pro Audio game, but in an audio control way. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about audio control, Pro Audio, and it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and you are tuned in to CMA Networks, where we talk mobile electronics day in and day out. On the menu today, a legendary brand in audio control getting into a whole new category called Pro Audio. Now, here at CMA, we do spend the time talking about Pro Audio because, let's face it, it's one of the fastest growing segments in the mobile audio industry. So much so that we had to create this Pro Audio segment just 2 short years ago. Well, it's great to see that this category is really moving ahead. It's starting to spread across not only to the southern US, but really truly across all of North America. And brands such as Audiocontrol have recognized this. Today, we've got our product expert, Matthew Palumbo, joining us. Matt, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we're talking about Pro Audio with Audiocontrol today. What's on the agenda?
Yeah, Ben, we're super excited. I mean, if you would have told me years ago that Audiocontrol is going to dive into Pro Audio, I would have probably said you were crazy. But these days, Pro Audio, like you said, it's not just a fad. It's a big deal. And one of my favorite parts of Pro Audio is the fact that it does bring new people into 12 volt. The traditional car audio guys will always be out there, but Pro Audio is a whole new market segment. And as usual, Audiocontrol wanted to just do things, a little differently, do it our way.
Well, Matt, I'm super excited to find out the inner workings and the ideas and concepts behind developing this new product for audio control in the Pro Audio segment. But first, a quick message from our partner, SiriusXM, reminding you why it's always an amazing add-on sale. And when we come back, let's find out what Audiocontrol is up to when it comes to Pro Audio. Don't you dare go away.
Hey, Paul here with SiriusXM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the SiriusXM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory SiriusXM antenna, and it's extra money, so no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door. And then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
Matthew Palumbo, welcome again to Connected, but this time we're talking about something that surprisingly and shockingly we have yet to talk about, and that is Audiocontrol now making Pro Audio gear. So, first question out of the gate, yes, we recognize that Pro Audio is of course a growing segment, but to contrast to your statement earlier, Audiocontrol actually has a rich history in pro level gear. If we look at some of the home audio stuff that they did, for me, it's not that big of a transition. It was just a question of when and where, but here we are. So talk to us a little bit about how excited you are as a brand and as, somebody who's obviously heavily invested in the brand itself for all these years, that you're finally getting into this new category.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben. I mean, I think to your point, like you said, home audio has been a huge part of Audiocontrol's legacy, and it, helped us get to where we are today. And along with the home side was Pro. And, we made a lot of products over the years for the Pro Audio category, testing equipment and microphones and RTAs, EQs, all these different products. And so for Audiocontrol Mobile to get into the Pro Audio field just absolutely makes sense. But like everything Audiocontrol, we don't want to just do Me Too product. We don't want to just come out with what everybody else has. So, we really wanted to do the research and spend the time to really do it right.
Well, talking about doing it right, I did a little bit of research myself heading into this episode, and there's 2 things I want to talk about. First of all, let's talk about research, R&D, and development, right? You guys kind of brought in a little bit of muscle when it came to this category of helping develop and making sure that if you're going to get into this category, you're going to do it right. And from what I understand from the materials that are available to us, is not only did you want it to sound like pro audio, that live and high volume type of output, you also wanted to have a certain quality of audio aspect to it as well. And by doing so, you also brought in a heavy hitter in Gary Bell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gary is a huge asset to our team, and he's the director of audio. So he oversees everything that happens with audio control and all of the Stinger brands if it has anything to do with audio or sound reproduction. And you're absolutely right. We recognize that in this space, there's so many brands that are putting out pro audio type product, but if you look at the products and their marketing and so on and so forth, it's always just about volume. It's never talked about quality. And when we started developing the Epic Pro line, we kind of adopted a tagline early on, and that was street loud, studio clear. And the idea was, yeah, we want it to be super loud and super efficient and have great dispersion and play far and wide. But we also want it to sound good, right? We're audio control. Our tagline is making good sound great. How are we going to put out pro audio product if it doesn't live up to the audio control name? And Gary's been a crucial part of making sure that these products really live up to the brand.
Well, two things I'm going to talk on right now. Number one, I had the opportunity to sit in that demo vehicle that y'all had at MasterTech. It was Gary's vehicle, and it was kind of like a pre-release before these products were actually available. Wow, yep. Great demo vehicle. Number two, if you are wanting to find a little bit more about Gary's involvement in this whole pro audio project and any other development that's coming down the pipeline, make sure you check out the workshop that Matt and Gary did, talking a little bit, a deeper dive on this whole pro audio thing. Okay, the other thing I want to bring up is something that you said, Matt, and that is this category brings in new customers. It's funny, if I look back at our last 3-4 years, we've been on this so many times, we got deep into like DSP and EQing and all this type of technical stuff. You know what I like about pro audio? It's fun, man. It's simple, it's basic, and I think it absolutely draws in new customers, especially younger customers. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think back on what any of us that are in 12 volt, like what got you involved in 12 volt, the number one answer from most everybody I've ever heard answer that question is bass, right? Most people heard a loud system coming down the street and thought it was cool, or they sat in the first car they ever sat in that had a real aftermarket subwoofer and went, wow, I like this. I think for most of us, that's what got us involved, got us bitten by the bug, so to speak. And I think pro audio kind of takes that a step further with, like you said, it's fun. And I think a lot of folks kind of forget, if they've been in this for a while, they get a little bit jaded, and it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff, the day-to-day work, and maybe you're running a shop or working in the install bay or whatever, and the challenges that come with that. But they forget sometimes that this is supposed to be fun. Car audio is fun. We aren't selling tires here or talking about brake calipers. Like, we're talking about stuff that truthfully no one needs, right? It's fun stuff that we want, not stuff that we necessarily have to have or need. And I think that brings in a whole different audience. If you open up the hatch of an SUV or a hatchback car or a wagon, and you have all this sound pouring out of it, and it sounds like a concert in the parking lot, that attracts attention, and it attracts new customers and new clientele that maybe otherwise wouldn't be exposed to aftermarket car audio at all.
Just to share a little personal note, I have a son, he's turning 21, loves music, he's a musician. I can't get him to sit down and listen to my soundstage. No, he doesn't care. He's like, why are we not cruising and having the windows down? And well, because my system isn't built for that, son. But for him, that's what he wants. So just to bring things full circle, yes, a perfect example of what you're talking about. Okay, let's get into it. The folks are tuning in. They want to know about this new pro audio gear from Audiocontrol. We're going to break this down real simple for y'all. We're going to be talking about our Epic Pro speakers, which are the drivers. Then we're going to talk about an amplifier lineup that also within the Epic family of products from Audiocontrol. And we're going to kind of round that out with the new Epic X subwoofer. So I'm going to let you off the leash here. Matt, take it away. Talk to us about the new Epic Pro speakers.
Yeah, Ben, so the Epic Pro line of speakers and tweeters, this is a pretty complete lineup right now, and there will be more models coming as well in the future. But at launch, we have 3 mid-range, mid-bass drivers. This is the Epic Pro 6S. This is the slimline driver. We noticed a trend recently where I think a lot of people think of pro audio as just being open show, is what we kind of call it, where you're opening the doors of a vehicle and kind of playing out to a parking lot. But what about the folks that have so much bass that they just need pro audio drivers to keep up with it? That's who the Epic Pro 6S was designed for. It's a little bit slimmer profile. It's designed to fit in more OEM locations in late model vehicles. And then you also have your Epic Pro 6X. This is a little bit deeper, but it does provide a little bit lower frequency response, so it'll play down a little bit lower and still give you tons of output. And then for those that want to get wild, you are doing custom door panels or a big, custom trim or whatever in the back of your vehicle, the Epic Pro 8X. This is an 8-inch, high output, super efficient, high power handling mid-bass driver. And then to kind of put the cherry on top, what Epic Pro audio system would be complete without tweeters? Now, we generally recommend 1 tweeter per pair of mid-ranges when you get into system setup, but we have 2 tweeters to choose from. You've got your Epic Pro 3NT, which is a Neo tweeter, 3-inch diameter, and it's small enough, light enough, and shallow enough to where it'll fit in a lot of factory locations as well. So again, you're trying to replace maybe those top dash middlers in your vehicle with something with crazy output. The 3NT is a perfect choice. And then if you're looking for something that's just a little bit more traditional, you're okay with it being a little bit bigger, you just need that super high output, the Epic Pro 4T is perfect for those applications.
Well, Matt, certainly a great selection. If this is getting your feet wet, I mean, it's definitely getting your feet wet, no question about it. Now, I wanted to dive in a little bit more detail on some of the cool features that I noticed, and maybe you can give a little bit more insight. First thing is that the interesting phase cap or dust cap that's in the middle of the speaker. I want to know about that. The second thing is Neo options. I mean, Pro Audio is really big on Neo, lighter weight, more, easier to install, but also better power handling. And lastly, I'm curious about the cone material. What did you decide to go with when designing these speakers?
Yeah, Ben, when it came to designing these new Epic Pro speakers, we really did our research. We did our homework. And part of that was some R&D. We wanted to, buy basically every popular pro audio mid-range out there and kind of evaluate them, see what works, what doesn't, and what makes them tick. Why is this one better than that one? And what we found is that there was kind of 2 major camps when it came to pro audio mid-range design. There's those that use a traditional dust cap, and there's those that use a phase plug. Phase plug kind of looks like a bullet in the middle of the speaker. And those phase plugs have some benefits where they do help sort out some of the unwanted cancellation that can happen, and they do help with the way the speaker reproduces audio and how it's directed outward. But they do leave an open space around that phase plug to where you can get dust and dirt inside the speaker, potentially damaging it or at least shortening its life. And then you also have the traditional dust cap designs, which add to the surface area, the cone area of the speaker, and give you a little bit more mid-range or mid-bass. But they also don't help sort out any of those unwanted issues. So what we decided to do was come up with our own design that we call the phase cap. And what this is essentially it's a dust cap that is shaped like a phase plug. And because that phase plug now moves with the cone of the speaker, we're able to achieve really great results with this and really kind of get the best of both worlds. Now, when it comes to materials and we talk about tweeters, Neo tweeters are a big deal in pro audio. Of course, Neo is a great material. Neodymium is what we're speaking about here. And it's lighter. It allows us to handle more power. It also is a just stronger magnet overall, but it also helps with install, right? It's reduced depth. It makes it fit so much easier in so many applications, whether you're putting it into more of a OEM location or a custom panel. For example, our Epic Pro 3NT is going to give us 140 watts of continuous power handling, whereas our traditional ferrite magnet in the Epic Pro 4T is going to give us about 80 watts of power handling. Both are super efficient, both handle plenty of power, but you can see that Neo magnet really does make a big difference. When it comes to the cone material, we chose paper, and we did that for a reason, but it's not just a basic paper. It is actually a reinforced paper cone. And there are some tricks up our sleeve there with kind of reinforcing and strengthening that paper cone. But paper is light, it's fast, and it sounds good. It has a natural warmth to it. There's a reason that some of the nicest speakers most people have heard actually use a paper cone. Combine that with a cloth surround, and you have a speaker that is just crazy efficient and gives you all the output that you're looking for in a pro audio system.
All right, the next component we're going to talk about is obviously power by means of amplification. Now, the Epic series of amplifiers we had a chance to talk about last year, but this really plays in well to round out this whole pro kind of deal. So just a quick walkthrough of what are some really cool amplifier options if you're considering going with audio control for a pro audio system.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we developed the Epic series of amplifiers, we obviously knew we were also going to be coming out with Epic Pro speakers. So we designed those amps to have all the power needed to kind of round out a great sounding Epic system. With the Epic line of amplifiers, these are not OEM integration amps. These are not DSP amps. These are not your typical audio control style amplifier. We're so synonymous with OEM integration and sound quality that we wanted to do something a little different with Epic, and we wanted to just give the user the most power for the dollar that they could possibly get, but get it from a high quality, legacy company that's been around for a long time and knows what they're doing. And that's really where Epic came from, is those Epic amps are lots of power, super clean for the price point, and just kind of no frills. Very simple, basic design, but they're still clean and have kind of a sexy aesthetic to them. As far as party tricks and features, they do all link up with the Epicenter processors. So if you are going to add maybe an Epicenter or the new Epicenter Micro Pro, for example, to your system, they have a little plug called the Epicenter Link. It actually supplies power, ground, and turn on to your connected Epicenter. Just makes the install super clean and simple, and that's found on every model except for the 4-channel. And in the Epic line, just real quick, you have a whole host of mono amps, everything from a 750 up to a 2000 watt mono, as well as a 4-channel and a great 5-channel, and there's even more models coming.
Well, guys, you heard it here first. More models coming down the pipe. Not sure you were supposed to say that or not, but too late. We already have you on video. So that's something to look forward to. All right, last piece of the puzzle here are the new Epic X subwoofers. Again, all part of the plan. But let's hear from your perspective some of the key features that really make these subwoofers perform in a pro audio environment.
Yeah, Ben, you're absolutely right. I mean, with the Epic X woofers, we wanted to have a line of woofers that kind of went with our whole Epic Pro lineup. And much like the Epic series amplifiers, I mean, these don't have to be used in a pro audio environment, but we wanted them to make sure that they were suitable for that as well. So what we did with the Epic X was we wanted a woofer that was high output, but still didn't necessarily require a ton of power. And if you look around at what others offer in this space, most of the time, unlike pro audio, where you have super efficient, crazy high output mids and tweeters, when it comes to woofers, a lot of companies, when they get to something that they would consider pro level, they build their woofers like a Mack truck. So they're super beefy and big, and they handle tons of power. But on the downside of that is then they require a ton of power. It makes them inefficient. We wanted to kind of go the other way. And with the Epic X woofers, that's exactly what we did. We have an 8, a 10, and a 12-inch model. And the key here, just like pro audio, is efficiency. We wanted to make sure that you could match up an Epic X woofer with about 500 watts or a little more, a little less, depending on what you have available, and have fantastic performance. We also know that the average person that's going to build a pro audio type system is not doing it to listen to it at moderate levels, right? We're listening to pro style systems at high output levels. So we wanted to make sure Epic X woofers would hold up to that abuse. So there's a whole host of features when you really dig into them that were designed to handle abuse, which is why we call them street bass woofers. We know what happens when folks are out there, cruising the boulevard, system up loud, windows down, super high output situations. We need a woofer that can handle that power, deliver tons of output, still sound really good while doing it, and also not fail. And that's exactly what we did with the Epic X woofers.
Hey, Matt, I really want to thank you for coming in today and talking to us about this all cool, all new pro audio gear coming to you from Audiocontrol. Did I ever second guess if Audiocontrol was going to jump into this arena that they wouldn't do it in true Audiocontrol fashion? Of course I didn't. But while I have you here, just how deep is Audiocontrol going to go in this category?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are planning more models. There are definitely more models of speakers coming, some different formats of speakers. I can say that. That's about as much as I'm going to say about that, as well as potentially maybe some enclosures coming down the line as well. Not going to say too much there. And the Epic line of amplifiers will expand as well. So literally everything we talked about today, there's more to come. It's some exciting stuff.
That was Audiocontrol's Matthew Palumbo joining us for today's session, breaking down all the details of the exciting new pro audio lineup coming to you from Audiocontrol. Now, like we might have mentioned, definitely head on over to the website audiocontrol.com, where you can see all the different models and specifications and get all the details that you need. Now, when it comes to Audiocontrol getting into this category, listen, I'm a fan of pro audio, and to see one of my favorite brands get into it, it just absolutely makes me giddy. I think this is an amazing move and the right move for Audiocontrol to expand their lineup into this category. I think they've done a brilliant job with their startup or their starting lineup, shall I say. But yeah, more to come. I'm expecting more options. I'm expecting enclosures. I'm happy that Matt said that. And it's going to be real exciting to see just exactly where this journey goes. That's it for the CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.